Hi, Joe Martin here with ITI Technical College, reminding you that classes start August 21st. So it's really important that you get in now to start your journey for a better life.
I'm Lee Feinswag, and this is Sports 225. And not just any Sports 225. This is the 25th year of the show. We started with Sports Monday, continued it into Sports 225, and now, a quarter century later, here we are. Sports 225 is sponsored by Breck. And now, me.
Oh, yeah.
My, oh, my. Let me say this. Well, it's Sports 225, and when they had the coin flip for the Civil War, the dean of SEC sports writers was there, Ron Higgins. And this is it. What year is this for you?
This is my 41st year to cover college football.
That's incredible, eh? Did you ever? I mean, can take 41 years ago, which would have put us, late.
Yeah, 1979, I think.
78, 79.
Yeah.
You probably looked at the old-timey sports writers and thought, man, how could they be doing this long?
Yeah, I try to tell the youngsters today, when I was in the dressing room interviewing a player, you were in a dressing room? Really? You were like next to a player in a dressing room? Yeah, that's how it used to be back in the old days, youngin', where you could actually talk to somebody without having it filtered. Golly, was it great? Oh, yes, it was great. Yeah.
Ron works for TigerDetails.com and covers LSU and the SEC. Back in the day, and I hadn't even thought about talking about this, but they used to have like a fly thing. It was called, what was it called?
Skyrider, SEC Skyriders.
Yeah. Tell people about that.
Well, it started a couple years after I became professional, but I was associated with it in the fact that I was at LSU working in sports information as a student assistant for Paul Manasseh, and my job was to get the liquor for the Skyriders when they came in, and because they would fly in usually in the morning, do an afternoon practice, talk to coaches and players, and then go write their stories, and then have their little party that night. And so I took the LSU company car. I said, I'm going to take this. He goes, no, you need a van. I said, what? A van? Really? So I take the van over to Cuban Liquor on Florida Boulevard, pull up, and I see this kind of pallet sitting up here and stuff. I said, I'm from LSU. I can lose myself. He goes, well, that's not it. I said, what's it? He goes, it's that wall over there. I'm like, a wall of liquor, really? He goes, yeah. And I took a wall of liquor back to LSU, and they drank a wall of liquor.
I love it.
But they had some legendary stories on that. The best one was Jimmy Davey, the Tennessean, told me this one time.
Boy, I love Jimmy Davey.
Yeah, Jimmy Davey. Talk like this. He goes, one time he goes, they had one of their parties on the road somewhere, and this guy comes in drunk, and they'd never seen him before. And he's just so drunk. He basically lays down in the bathtub full of ice that has beer in it. Just lays there, and they can't move him. They go, is he dead? I mean, should we call 911? What should we do? I don't know. We'll just move him, get another beer, and leave. So they left him. So the next day they're waiting on the plane and wait and leave. And they turn around. This guy walks up. They go, oh my God, it's our new pilot. It was the pilot. Like, we're all going to die. Yeah. He goes, hey fellas. And the guy, he didn't probably recognize any of them. They go, hey. Yeah, the pilot. Yeah.
Covering the SEC.
Yeah.
What do you remember when practices started to get closed? Like, do you remember, was there a period of time when it began? Did it filter down from the NFL? Because back in the day, practices were open. You went and you watched practice.
I'm thinking probably. I remember Arnsberg used to have open practices.
Sure.
He didn't like you cutting across his field like a corner of a field. Like you cut across a corner of the end zone. He could 5 fields away. Hey, don't do that! But I impressed him one day. I was standing there with my notepad taking notes, and quarterback over with a receiver, and I just caught it with one hand, threw it back. He goes, really? I'm guessing. I'm thinking early 90s probably. I mean, or mid 90s it started closing up.
Not just LSU, I'm talking about everybody.
Yeah, I mean, everybody started closing up. And of course, when Nick came in, it was all over. Nick just tried, Nick's whole thing was, I want to control the message in every way possible, so I'm not going to let you see any at practice. Now we get to see, right now, and in preseason and this week, we get to see like 10 minutes or 12 minutes of fine people, running routes and hitting dummies and nothing major, and then they throw you out. So you get your little video and you put it up, and fans love to watch the same stuff every day for some reason, and you move on.
I like you get the media alerts, LSU media alerts. Players will be available now at 5:03. Please plan to enter the facility at like 4:57.
Yeah.
So I'll leave you with this. In 1985, I became the Southern University beat writer for the then Morning Advocate. And Otis Washington, who died this past year, was one of the great guys, was the head football coach. And Otis somehow started bragging about how he could place kick. And I told him, I said, well, I'm better than you. And Otis, in front of the whole team, he challenged me. He said, well, I said, all right, you just tell me when. So we picked whatever Thursday we'll kick, and we'll start at like 25 yards and we'll back it up and at the end of practice. So I came out to practice in shorts and cleats. And what he didn't know is that when I was 13, I never played football in high school, but I was a punt, pass, and kick regional champion, and I could place kick. And that goes back to playing soccer after that. So with the whole team around and everything, this is after watching the complete practice, of course, beat Otis in a place kicking contest. I'd give anything for pictures or video of that, but there wasn't any.
I did the same thing with Watson Brown when he was at Vanderbilt. In fact, I just got back from the Seoul Olympics and went to cover Georgia, Vanderbilt at Georgia. And Vanderbilt lost the week before, on missing extra points. And so Joe Bill and I were sitting there talking to Watson Brown, on a Friday walk around Georgia Stadium. I mean, what's the deal? You can't find a place kicker? And Watson Brown's, well, you think it's so easy, you do it. I said, okay. So, I mean, like you, I'd place kicked,
Yeah.
And put it down and, drilled one right through the middle. He goes, you just blow my point completely. I said, well, you picked the wrong sports writer to ask that.
Well, you never did say what you decided when the coin toss was done for the Civil War. He's Ron Higgins. He writes for TigerDetails.com. We've got a lot to talk about LSU, SEC, National College Football as we go to a break during our second show of our 25th year.
The South deferred on the coin toss. You know that, don't you?
I'm Lee Feinzog at Sports 225.
Break out of the chaos.
We're back on Sports 225. My man Ron Higgins is here. He's been covering SEC football since the late 70s, and LSU the last, however many years, 5-6 years since you returned from Memphis. And this is a interesting LSU football preseason for two reasons. Number one is we didn't have a whole bunch of stories about people getting arrested and having off-the-field indiscretions, and that's unusual, and that's a good thing.
It's a very good thing. In fact, we asked Joe Burrow the other day, about that. And he said he made the statement. I agree with him because teams that generally don't have those distractions usually have pretty good years. There's no drama. Mm-hmm. There's no drama over a lot of ineligible guys, or drama about player arrests you didn't know about or that you knew about. No major injuries except for one to Cardell Thomas, a freshman But no major injuries, so they made it through. And I'm looking at other schools right now around the league, and they're going through all kinds of stuff. And there's been players arrested. Alabama lost a couple of guys. They just lost their best linebacker, a kid from Baton Rouge, Dylan Moses, for the year with a torn ACL. He was their best defensive player.
Yeah, I wrote a story about him when he was in the 8th grade for 225 the magazine, because he had I think he committed at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But there's been lots of injuries and player arrests, and LSU has made it through you know, all the way here we are a few days before the first game, opener against Georgia Southern. They've made it all the way through. So, in that sense, it's great. And there's a lot of anticipation. There's a lot of things people can't wait to see. They can't wait to see the new offense, which is really, everybody calls it a new offense, but it's what everybody else in America's been doing for like 10 years. LSU's getting around to it.
But here's the thing. So I said there were 2 points, and the first one being is that, you know, no arrests, no off the field distractions more than, you know, little things. And the other is, it's the first time that I can remember not talking about a quarterback, saying who's going to be the quarterback and can he get the job done. You know, this kid Joe Burrow had a nice year last year. Yeah. You know, don't pencil him in for like you know, the Hall of Fame or anything, but he's good, and there's every reason to think that he can have a really nice year this year.
Yeah, I think he's going to be even better this year for several reasons. One, he's in a system that really fits him. He's played this system before in high school. He understands the run-pass option game. He understands the passing game that Joe Brady wants to use, the passing coordinator they got from the Saints. So, and I understand LSU fans they've heard LSU cry wolf like 80,000 times before. I mean, I went back to the story last week, and almost every year at SEC Media Days, Les Miles talking about how they're going to throw the ball more. Yeah, right. You know,
60-40, 65-35.
Oh yeah, I mean, Les counted option pitch outs as completions, and they really are going to throw the ball. I mean, they've made an effort every day in practice. They throw a ball a lot. They want to spread.
In those 3 minutes you get to see.
Yeah, but they want to spread the ball, and they've thrown a lot. They threw a lot in scrimmages. It's not they're going to abandon the run game. They understand that's important. It's always going to be important, and they really have to have some really pretty good running backs as always. But because they have a senior quarterback, a fifth-year senior who's exceptionally smart, a coach's son who understands the intricacies of this offense, you know, they can do a lot of things at the line of scrimmage. He can do a lot of things at the line of scrimmage. There's a lot of plays where they have side adjustments, where receivers go to the line and they read the defense and they adjust their routes, and the quarterback adjusts with them. So it's a lot of stuff that LSU really hasn't done before, and I think fans are dying to see it, because over the years, LSU fans would watch other teams do this on TV and against them and go, why can't we do that? And well, now it's time to do that. And give Orgeron credit. He realized after last year that, you know, he understands that averaging 29, 30 points a game is not going to win you a national championship now. It's just not. I looked up the stats. I think the average national champion now, since they started the playoff, average is like 39 a game.
Really?
During the season.
Does that take into a consideration, you know, crushing blowouts of bad teams, obviously, but still?
The whole season, and the teams that have qualified for the playoffs have averaged like about 40 a game. So you've got to put up some points now. Mm-hmm. And I think Ed realized that. He realized it wasn't going to happen with what they were doing. And I think toward the end of last year, they saw they could go in this direction, because they saw Burrow was a surprisingly good runner who can run RPOs, and he's a smart guy who can throw the ball. And I give Orgeron credit for, you know, making the change and feeling like this was the time to try this. And I'm eager to see it. I'm eager to see their defense. They can't do it this week, but their defense supposedly is going to attack more, and their defensive line is going to attack more and read less. You can't do it this week because you're going against an option team. And I'm sure LSU fans are eager for $8 beers. So.
Has anybody brought up the name of Irk Russell yet this week, though? Yes,
they have. I tell you who has. Georgia Southern's coach brought it up, and he brought up there's something on there.
And Irk Russell is the legendary Georgia Southern coach who led them through 1AA prominence back in the day.
Yeah, there's like this little hashtag of initials on Georgia Southern's helmets, and I got credit. Matt Mascona had the Georgia Southern coach on the other day. I asked him, what's the hashtag for? He says, it means get after their ass. And he goes, where'd you get that from? He goes, well, when Irk Russell was the defensive coordinator at Georgia and they're playing Georgia Tech, he looked at the initials Georgia Tech Athletic Association and switched it around to where he told his team, get after Tech's ass. So he goes, we kind of adopted it. And he goes, people love it around here. So that's Irk Russell's been, and of course Irk was one of the greatest characters of all time in college football.
Absolutely.
And a hell of a coach.
Oh, yes. You know, the old Georgia Southern dynasty was something else. He's Ron Higgins. You can follow him on Twitter at Ron Hig. I'm Lee Feinswag. I've probably tweeted at least 3 or 4 times in the last 6 months at Lee Feinswag. This is Sports 225.
Break out of the routine.
There you go. We're back on Sports 225. I'm Lee Feinswag, hanging out with the legendary Ron Higgins. A friend of mine boasted, he said, this is the greatest LSU receiving corps. I mean, they're fantastic. And I said, well, you know, you had a team a couple of years ago with 2 guys who were pretty good, you know, set the bar, you know, they're doing pretty good in the NFL. There's been some great receivers, but this core of group of kids is really good and plays into your point about maybe the things that they can do.
Yeah, but they got all sizes and shapes. So they got, I mean, for instance, I mean, they're so good on the outside that their outside receiver, Justin Jefferson, who was their outside guy like this year, is being moved to slot. And he operates really well inside. They've got big physical receivers. They've got little guys who can jet. They got all, you know, shapes and sizes, and they're going to throw all. They're going to throw all of them. I mean, they have like 7 or 8 receivers. I anticipate all of them playing because they'll be going 4 wide a lot.
That'll be fun and exciting to watch.
Yeah.
But you know, no matter what though, all the other things aside, when you look at things at the end of the year, you have to have had a really good offensive line, because that's the one that allows you to run, protects your quarterback, and gives him the time to pass. And you've got to have a great defense. You cannot win the national championship without those things. You can't win an SEC championship without those things. To your point, sure, you got to score 40 points, maybe, but you got to have those 2 things.
Yeah, and you know, offensive line, they had some injuries in preseason, nagging stuff. Everybody's back. They're probably thin at center. But I think it's a pretty good offensive line. Defensive line, I think it's just off the charts. They finally got depth, and they got a bunch of people, and they're pretty good. But one of the things I always say to win the national championship, you've got to have luck, and there's got to be that 1 or 2 games where it just falls in your lap. And I've seen it twice. But about one thing I remember. I saw the year Tennessee won the national championship, their very first game at Syracuse, they were basically done, and they got this late in the game, got this phantom pass interference call to go their way, and it set up a game-winning field goal. They escaped the carry down by 3, and then they really had no problems the rest of the year. But you've got to have something.
Now, every team that wins a national championship, somewhere along the line,
Yeah.
either makes a great play,
Yeah.
gets a call, or you know, whatever. There's always.
Oh
something.
yeah, I mean, and I think that was the same year. I think that Tennessee was dead in the water against Arkansas, and like 4 minutes left in the game, Arkansas's got the ball. Basically, they're probably going to win the game, and Clint Sterner, the Arkansas quarterback, trips over a lineman who got pushed back into him. He puts the ball on the ground. Tennessee recovers, and they drive like 50 yards with a winning touchdown. And it's like, when you saw it happen, you thought, the fix must be in. I mean, it was just incredible. But stuff like that happens, and you have to have something like that happen.
Well, you remember when LSU won and got in with 2 losses and came down to the last day, and 2 things had to happen. One was Pitt upset West Virginia, which was a huge, unlikely upset, and then 6 hours later, Hawaii time, Hawaii won, which changed the RPIs for XYZ and did this and did that. You know, so there's always things like that.
Yeah, I mean that day everything had to fall in place for LSU, and all these little things fell in place. So you got to have that kind of stuff. I mean, you really do. I mean, that's one element, another element of it. But you know, all things considered, I think this is a year that LSU, and with the right circumstances, can possibly win the league. I'm looking at all Alabama's injuries right now. I'm kind of wondering about their mindset. And there's some other good teams in this league, but when I look at LSU's veteran quarterback, what they're trying to do offensively, and the depth they have on defense, they have some elements here that they haven't had in a while.
Before we take this last break, so every day after practice, you visit with kids, and you got the group interviews, and you've done feature stories. Anybody who has just impressed you so much to visit with and to write about that maybe was a surprise to you?
Thaddeus Moss, Randy Moss's son, tight end, who won the starting job. Really thoughtful, really honest in what he says. Every time you talk to him, he's just a really good interview. And Joe Burrow's is really is great. I mean, they've had quarterbacks there who are just almost surly most of the time. I mean, Zach Mettenberger was just a pain in the ass to deal with, just surly every time. Didn't want to talk to all you negative Nancys. Well, you're a joy to talk to too. Joe Burrow throughout all this has been he's insightful, he's funny, he understands the responsibility of being a quarterback and dealing with media. He's just good. I mean, they have a lot of guys on this team like that. Rashard Lawrence is another guy. There's so many guys. Calebon Chason is really good. They have a lot of guys who are really good interviews. I'm sure there's some freshmen who are good interviews, but we'll never get to talk to them because they're insane freshman rule where you can't talk to freshmen.
You can't. If you talk as a freshman, you never know what terrible things could happen. All right, we got time for one break. We probably ought to talk about the SEC and the national picture when we get back. All right?
Yep.
All right. Go to TigerDetails.com. Read Ron's stuff. It's good. He's always good. The Dean of SEC Sports Writers. I'm Lee Feinswag, and I'm the Dean of Local Sports Television Shows in Baton Rouge, only because there's really only one that's been here for a really long time.
Well,
that's not true. I guess Lee Burkeen's had Louisiana football but not as long as me, not 25 years.
You fooled him for a long time.
That's true. And Ronnie Rance, as his show has been going on for a while, but I mean, come on. Those are kids. They're kids. Yes, they can't fire me. I own the show. And with that, I say we'll go to break.
Break out of the chaos.
Coming down the home stretch of another Sports 225, go to sports225.com to see when all the show listings are on Cox 4, which is now YourView, and Cox Sports Television, which is CST. Go to Think JCW for all of your production needs. Thanks to John Williams from JCW for directing. And Ron Higgins is here. Every year you go, well, Alabama's going to win the league, and it's not necessarily a bad pick to pick Alabama, but there are chinks in the armor you talked about. All the injuries they have. Assuming Alabama doesn't win the league, who do you like after that?
I think Georgia's right. Georgia's been right there. I mean, Georgia had them beaten in the SEC championship game last year until Kirby Smart had an out-of-body experience and decided to, I think, fake a field goal in the wrong time. Wow. And they had them in the national championship game year before. They had them beat too, and couldn't win it. Georgia, because they have a quarterback who's a veteran. He's had really great recruiting years. They're pretty consistent and steady. Kirby learned a lot from Nick in his time there, and all the years he's spent with Nick. He's his own guy, but he learned how to recruit like Nick and keep stockpiling talent. I like Georgia if it's not Alabama. Then after that, honestly, really LSU is right there. But LSU has to stay healthy in some areas, and really they just have to keep the game-to-game focus that I think Orgeron has been able to do with them.
The second week, the Texas game looms large. That's a real important game in the grand
it's a huge
things.
game, and there's so many plot lines to it. The fact Orgeron was the emergency second choice behind the guy that went to Texas. Texas coach was also Dave Aranda's roommate in college. And so there's
All
all
right, I
this
got
plot
15
line.
seconds.
Okay.
Who wins the national championship? If you had to pick 3 teams maybe in the hunt.
Sounds boring, but Clemson, Georgia, and Alabama. I
you
think
go.
Clemson's too consistent. He's got it going.
They do. Go to TigerDetails.com to read Ron Higgins' stuff. It's always good features, good coverage of LSU, good perspective on the SEC. Go to sports225.com. Like I said, to check out all of our archive shows. Thank you, sir. Always great.
Oh.
He'll be back this fall, no doubt. I'm Lee Feinswag. Thanks for watching Sports 225.
That's plain. That's painless and going to the dentist. It just kind of breeze through. Just
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras, things can get blurry. See the mowers marching, prizes fill the sky.